The Shep Naz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shep Naz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. I have with me in studio today Pastor Rob, and we have a proposal that's been given to us by Columbia Gas, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. There's a vote coming up on Sunday, and so we thought we'd spend a little time today on the podcast kind of delving into some details so that if you had any questions, hopefully you can get those answered. If we don't answer all of your questions, you can always email us at podcast@shepnaz.org, and we can try to get that information to you so that you can make an informed decision. So, Pastor Rob, welcome in.
Thanks. Good to be here. I'm excited to do this. One of the things that I think, one of the principles that kind of guides my leadership is transparency. I think is important, and I don't like kind of keeping things or trying to manipulate things around. So we're just gonna let it all out today.
We'll just put it out there
and tell you what's going on. So you might recall about this would have been back 5-6 months ago, I think. We started to deal with Columbia Gas. Basically, the issue is that the main service line that's feeding Columbus and Gahanna and communities between here and there is really old, and they're replacing the stuff. And so they're putting in a gas pipeline to service the communities with natural gas, and it's a massive project. They're putting this pipeline in. And anyway, our first dealing with them was that they're trying to find a way through town.
Right.
We have the clearest space in town in the field behind our church because there's not hardly any space in Gahanna to build anymore. And the land that we have is very sparse in terms of there's not a lot of it in Gahanna. So anyway, they wanted to put in a gas line, and it was an underground gas line. So they worked with the board, and the board approved to give them an easement to put the pipeline under the ground along the edge of our property. So basically, if you were looking at our property from the air, it would be on the north side of our property. It's coming up under the river behind our church and going through the woods, under the river and through the woods, and then through our property. And it'll be, you'll never know that it's there. It's somewhere about 6 feet deep. There's never been any issues with those kinds of things. They have to have an easement to work on it if they need to, so we can't build anything on it, but we couldn't build anything there anyway because it's so close to the property lines of the people who own houses next to us.
So is this running parallel to like Rocky Ford?
Yeah.
So it'll be just running
Correct.
between our property and basically the houses.
Yeah. So you have Rocky Fork, the houses, and then right behind there in our property, but right behind there, it's theirs. So we could build a road on it, which we said we may want to put we've talked about putting another Exeter entrance road down to where the park trail starts. Yeah. So we have the ability to do that. So that was done, and they gave us some money for that, and we have used that money to keep things going in the building, the projects. You know, if you've been around here, you see a roof going on and all that other kind of stuff. And so they then, as they're developing the project, they needed to put in a regulator station, and a regulator station basically, when the gas is flowing through this pipe, is flowing through it at a higher volume than it can go to a house. So the regulator station takes the volume and the pressure and reduces it so that it can be delivered to homes at a safe pressure. Mm-hmm. That's what the regulator station does. There's I think they said over 100 of them throughout the city of Columbus. They're all over the place, and some you don't even know where they are sometimes. And some of them are right in residential neighborhoods right next to houses. Like it looks like a shed in somebody's backyard, but it's a regulator station. They showed us pictures of that. So anyway, they need to put this in. They're looking for a place, and there's not a lot of places in Gahanna. So one of the things that they talked about doing was buying some homes along Hamilton Road and then tearing them down to put that there. Somehow the mayor got into a conversation with us in the city of Gahanna and wanted to know if we would be interested in maybe putting one in. So the place that they are proposing that we put it is in the very far west, northwest corner of our property. all the way back at the back where the trees kind of come together in a V shape to meet the trail that goes back there. Mm-hmm. It's in part of a floodplain, so we could not build a building there. We could get things rezoned, or we could use it for green space, which is basically what we do now anyway. And they proposed maybe putting it back there. It's the only place I would consider it. I think is the only place that would be good for us, and it would allow us to be a good neighbor to the community and a good citizen in the community, all that kind of stuff.
Well, and it's down and out of the way
Yeah.
in a place where
Right.
we're not going to be able to put anything in it.
Right. Correct. So they said, would you be interested in an offer? And I'm like, sure, you can make us an offer. So they did. They made an initial offer, and they said that they needed 150 by 150 spot of land, which is about a half acre. We have 28 acres. And they said we would give you $50,000 for it. And I said, well, I would take that to the board, but if I were a voting member of the board, I'd vote no, because that's not near enough. And what I did was I called a realtor that we'd been working with to sell our house on Rocky Fork, and I said, can you give me some comps of what a half acre costs? What is a half acre going for in Gehenna? There are only 2 half acre plots that have been sold in Gehenna in the last 6 months, and they were all over 100,000, like 104, 105,000. So we told the board that, and the board's like, yeah, we're not taking $50,000. They're smart people. We're not doing that.
Right.
But the way we got to this number is interesting. So we're like, the guy's like, you got to make me an offer. So I'm like, well, I don't know. So I talked to the board. So I'm like, guys, help me out here. What do we do? And so Steve Grove said, we have had these plans to build a playground. And it was $204,000 to build the playground. And Steve said, why don't we ask them if they would build the playground, and we would give them the land? And I'm like, hey, I think that's a great idea. The board thought it was a great idea. I even talked to the mayor about it. She's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And we said they could put Columbia Gas's name on it, donated by Columbia Gas, and they can get some...
Give them a little brass plaque.
Get them some kudos in the community. Look how nice Columbia Gas is. And then we kind of thought, it'd be nice to put a basketball court out there, because we have a basketball court in the back, and it's going to kind of go away when we add the addition to the school. So I went from $204,000 to $235,000.
Yeah, let's throw that in there.
This playground that we want to build would be $235,000. So I told the guy from 50 to 235, and he's like, I'll talk to my boss. I'm not the one that makes the decision. So he took the offer, or our counter, or whatever you want to call it, and went to his boss. And then he called me back the next day, and he said, listen, talk to my boss. They said there's just too many hoops to jump through in order for us to make a donation like that. We have to do all these things or whatever. And he said, but I think she said, could we just buy the property off of you for $235,000?
Can we just write a check?
And I said, I got to pray about that, because I'm not sure. And so I did. I took it back to the board, and I shared with the board, they went from $50,000 to $235,000 for that same piece of property. And so the board's like, yeah, we think that this is a good opportunity. We're not going to be able to use that land for really anything else. And so we had a representative of Columbia Gas come in, and the guy who is the foreman of the construction company who will be putting the gas line in and the regulator station. And they asked us, we had all kinds of questions. They gave a presentation, which if you go to shepnaz.org/Columbia Gas,
right,
you can find that presentation there. You can see what a regulator station is. You can see pictures of other ones. Ours will not look like these other ones. Ours will be better looking. The city has guaranteed us that. And you can see just all about it, what it does, and an aerial map of where the proposal is. The only thing on the aerial map is that it's actually going to be back a little bit further into the woods than it is, so it'll be even less obtrusive to us, because I told them we would maybe one day want to put in a road back there, and that access to the road, we didn't want to pull right into the regulator station. We wanted to pull around. So they're working on that. So anyway, that's all there. So the board said, yeah, we think that this is a good thing. After meeting with Columbia Gas officials, that we asked all kinds of questions, kind of questions you're probably thinking right now, like, is it going to blow up? Does it smell? Is it loud? Is it noisy? Is there going to be lights? Is it safe? Is it going to be a terrorist Target or any of those kind of things, and and a lot of other questions we asked, and they had already answered some of them. But at the end of the day, all the answers were like, this is a state-of-the-art piece of equipment. The guy said that there are 11 fail-safe things that would have to happen. 11 things would have to fail in sequence and order in order for anything bad to happen. And I think there was one time in Pennsylvania that one of these blew up. And he said it was technology that doesn't even exist today. And he said there are hundreds of them all over Columbus and thousands of them all over, and you never, that nothing happens to them. So we have, gotten all of our questions answered, really satisfactory. So the board voted unanimously to move forward. So for us, the next step as a church, part of our polity includes that we have to have the district advisory board approve the purchase or sale of any property.
Right.
So that actually happened on Saturday, last Saturday. We took this to the district advisory board, and they also approved it unanimously. So where we sit now is that we have this offer from Columbia Gas to give us $235 for about an approximate half acre. $235,000. Yeah, my bad. For an approximate half acre of land back in the back corner to put in this regulator station, and that's where we are. So everything's been approved that needs to be approved except for the vote. So for us, the congregation has to vote, and it has to be a 2/3 majority in favor of it for it to pass.
And who can vote on this?
Well, before I say that, once this does pass, they still have some EPA things that they have to do to make sure that they can do it, but they feel really confident about it because I'm getting an email from the guy every other day. Are we still on track? How's everything looking or whatever? And I'm like, we've done everything we can do. We have the vote on Sunday and all that. But yeah, so you have to be a member of the church, and you need to be 15 years of age or older to vote in any of the elections. And so if you're 15 and you're a member, you can vote in this on this ballot. And the way to do that is we'll have a QR code on Sunday at the service that you can scan, and you'll vote electronically. And the nice thing about that is it tallies everything and keeps records of it. So we don't have to worry about, miscounting or any of that kind of stuff. It's all, there's no hanging chads in the ballot. And if you are going to be watching online, there'll be a link that will be made available during the service as well for you to vote. And if you're not able to be here and you're still a member and want to vote, I did send out an email, and there's a link there. But if you didn't get it and you want to get it, let us know. Just email us at podcast@shepnaz.org, and we'll let you know. When you get the link, or if you already got the link, because I did send the link out already, it's not active until Sunday, and it'll be active from 8 a.m. on Sunday morning to 12:30. So basically during church time is when we'll vote, because that's typically when we would vote. So 8 to 12:30 on Sunday, August 25th, you can register your vote. And if you have any questions at all, you can talk to any of the board members, any of the staff. You can email us at that same address, podcast@shepnaz.org. I'll do my best to get back to you right away and answer any of your questions. But a lot of your questions might be answered by the paperwork that we have on the website now.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. It's probably like a couple packets. That one of them's just a letter of intent that talks about what the actual offer is.
Yep.
And then the other packet of information is pretty much like a PowerPoint presentation in PDF form that allows you to look at some of the other installations that have been installed and what those look like and kind of what to expect.
Yeah. Now for us, there are pictures in that presentation, but for us, the city of Gahanna has some pretty high standards, and even the mayor and the guy who's working on behalf of the city with us on this, he pulled me aside after the meeting the other day, and he goes, "Are you guys okay with this? We want to make sure you guys are good. We want to make sure our neighbors are good. We don't want to make anybody in our city mad at this project. We want to help Columbia Gas, but at the end of the day, you guys and the neighbors are who we serve." So I was really thankful for that, and we'll be able to have a big say in what it looks like. So it won't be a chain link fence. Right. It'll probably be maybe stone or brick, or it'll be something really nice, and it will be landscaped. And so when you look back there, you won't see a regulator station. You'll see a space that's marked out, but it's landscaped and it'll look nice. And it just has to be big enough for them to get their trucks in there so they can work on it in a safe and secure environment. But it's a pretty nice thing. So, and you'd mentioned earlier, you know, how God's been doing a lot of cool stuff. Maybe it was on this podcast or the last one. I'm not sure. They run together sometimes. But, you know, I pray often, almost every time I pray for our church, that the Lord I believe that the Lord has all the resources that he needs to grow his church. And so part of my prayer is always, Lord, would you release the resources that you already have to help us build the kingdom of God here and help us to be good stewards of the resources that you entrust us with. And so, you know, I pray that all the time, and it's just really cool to see how God's doing that in creative ways, you know. Yeah. With the initial thing that came through was $100,000. We sold a house just recently, and we're getting a new roof, and we had 11 or 12 leaks in the roof the other day. Right. Now we've got a roof that should last us another 20 years or more, hopefully more. And then they come up with this thing, and, you know, we've stepped out in faith to say we're going to build a school because we want to educate kids with a Christian worldview. We want to do some things for our community by providing a playground and put this pavilion out there so our community can come and be a part of that and be here on our place, our property, and just feel the love and presence of the Lord. So it's kind of what we were talking about in the podcast. If we just believed that God could do what he said he would do, and we just started taking these steps, he would come through. And that's really kind of what's happening. And so I don't want to tell anybody how to vote. All I would say is that, you know, the board unanimously approved it. The advisory board unanimously approved it. But we value what everybody has to say, and it's a team effort. And so we want you to pray about it and vote however you feel like the Holy Spirit's leading you to vote. And we're going to trust that God's going to lead and guide through the collective of his people. Whether it's good or whether we get the money or we don't get the money, we're going to trust that God's in control and doing what he wants to do here. So, but it is a really neat opportunity that God has laid into our lap. So,
great. All right. So, just as a reminder, that vote will be on this coming Sunday.
Yep, Sunday, August 25th.
You should have a link for that if you're a church member. If you don't get that in the email, then you can always email us at podcast@shepnaz.org. Yep. But you'll be able to vote in person by using the QR code on Sunday morning or the link online. So you can also keep up with everything that's going on in the church by going to shepnaz.org. You can see all the information about this proposal at shepnaz.org/Columbia Gas. For Pastor Rob, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.